You know what they say, laughter is the best medicine. Unless you're suffering from leprosy or a bullet wound, then maybe the best medicine is, actual medicine. But we all enjoy a good chuckle every now and then, and what better way to tickle the old funny bone than with a classic comedy TV show or movie? Whether it's slapstick, surrealism, or whatever the hell the Big Bang Theory is meant to be, comedies are a great way to relax and entertain yourself while trying not to think about that leprosy and bullet wound. Seriously, go to a doctor, I told you this already. Unfortunately, not all great comedies translate well into the world of gaming. Humour is subjective, after all, and apparently so is quality, because the following 10 beloved LOL fests ended up becoming anything but funny when they got turned into games. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 worst video games inspired by good comedies. Number 10. Flushed Away, 2006. An underrated gem from the minds behind Wallace and Gromit, Flushed Away is a 2006 animated movie about a posh rat named Roddy who is transported to an underground civilization when he gets flushed down the bog. It's better than it sounds, I promise. Despite being a financial loss, Flushed Away did well with critics and fans alike. Also, it features Hugh Jackman, aka Wolverine, as the hero, and Ian McKellen, aka Magneto, as the villain. So, does this technically make it part of the X-Men canon? I mean, it obviously doesn't, but I'm just gonna decide that it does. The film received a video game adaptation released that same year. We say adaptation, but the events of the game actually differ wildly from the plot of the movie. A bold idea, but bold does not always mean good. Flushed Away, the game, only averaged in the mid to high 40s in its review scores, depending on which platform it was reviewed on, with one outlet calling it absolute toilet. That grammar isn't 100% solid, but we here at TripleJump can recognise a strong pun game when we see it. For instance, I just said solid. Oh. In short, Flushed Away suffers from movie adaptation-itis. It's a boring, lazy title for a film that deserved much better. Number 9. Space Jam, 1996. Let's be real here, Space Jam is not actually a good movie. The comedy is hit and miss, the animation is dated, and Michael Jordan's acting is about as wooden as the floor of the basketball court he plays on. You might think this is a good movie, but have you actually watched it recently? It's really not. Still, you cannot deny that this film is popular, and therefore I'm unpopular for having said it's not very good. So popular, in fact, that it got a sequel 25 years later, and, well, the less said about that one, the better. What should also be avoided, though, is the first movie's video game tie-in. Released for the Sega Saturn, PlayStation, and MS-DOS, the Space Jam game is a 3-on-3 basketball sim accompanied by various minigames that earn players power-ups. It's a bit like NBA Jam, but if... to be honest, I don't know enough about basketball to make a good joke here, but, it's like NBA Jam, basically. One area in which it couldn't compare to NBA Jam, though, was its reception. Space Jam was mauled by critics who claimed the gameplay was boring, the characters were badly designed, and the graphics looked like they would have been better done on a 16-bit machine. It's safe to say that this game did not receive the same level of love as the film, but that's okay, because the Space Jam legacy lives on stronger than ever to this very day. Oh god, get it away from me! Oh, it's not positive at all! Number 8. SpongeBob SquarePants, Plankton's Robotic Revenge, 2013. Over the years, Bikini Bottom's resident annoying invertebrate has starred in plenty of video games. Creature from the Krusty Krab, Atlantis SquarePantis, and weirdly, Madden NFL 21. No really, look it up. Unfortunately for our absorbent, yellow and porous friend, not many of his games review very well, not even Madden NFL 21. But let's talk about a different game before the sports references get to be a bit too much. Let's talk about 2013's Plankton's Robotic Revenge. After Plankton discovers some ultra-powerful batteries and uses them to power up his robot army, the Sponge Boy and his pals must do battle with him to rescue the precious Krabby Patty formula. So far, so SpongeBob. Alas, the show's trademark humour and fun were not present in the game, which committed the cardinal sin when it comes to SpongeBob, playing it safe. In a show where scenes like this appear on a regular basis, it's worth getting at least a little bit crazy when it comes to the games. In fact, come to think of it, why bother with games at all? I mean, the show is right there. Perfect. Just leave it be. Number 7. Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, 1997. Now put down your pitchforks and just listen for a second. There's method to our madness. Developer 7th Level's third and final game, inspired by the antics of the world's best-funded maniacs, Monty Python, isn't all bad. In fact, some people really love this game, praising its use of Python-esque humour and Terry Gilliam's surreal cartoon style. It's obviously based on the Python's 1983 film, The Meaning of Life. Now, I say film, but it's not really one cohesive story. It's more like a collection of back-to-back fever dreams. It's brilliant, one of my favourites in fact, but this can make the plot of the game very hard to follow, especially for those unfamiliar with the film itself or the troupe's brand of comedy. Secondly, 7th Level went bust halfway through production, which meant the game was released with a number of bugs. This hampered the experience of many players, although the game was so strange to begin with that half of them probably didn't even notice when something was broken. Still, some people managed to enjoy this little title, even with its faults. Now that's what I call looking on the bright side of life. Oh, that's the wrong movie, isn't it? Never mind. Number 6. Friends, the one with all the trivia, 2005. So no one told you that this game was gonna suck. It's clear that those who made it couldn't give a. Friends, the one with all the trivia, was brought out 1 year after the legendary sitcom aired its final episode. You almost certainly don't need me to explain Friends to you, but if you do, what have you been doing for the last 30 years? Even superfans, though, may need a refresher on this oft-forgotten game. It starts off well enough, promising players over 3,000 questions about the show, and featuring actual cast members, including the late, great James Michael Tyler. However, that's about the last nice thing I can say about this cheap cash grab. The video quality is bad, the graphics are worse, and some reviewers felt that the difficulty curve of the questions was all over the place. The game does little to endear itself to its audience, which was already limited to begin with. Look at me, I'm this game. Could I be any worse? Well, probably, but that's not really something I want to think about, so let's move on. Number 5. Bad Boys Miami Takedown, 2004. Fans of worst games ever, which is approximately 90% of the human population, right? Right? Will know this game as Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys, bad
for life.
For life.
2.
And will also know that it stinks.
Why is he walking like that?
Which is a real shame, because the movie it's based on is a fan favourite. Not a critical darling by any means, but Bad Boys 2 is fondly remembered by many movie buffs, and not just Nick Frost's character in Hot Fuzz.
You ain't seen Bad Boys 2?
Even Danny Butterman himself, though, would struggle to enjoy this game. Critics decried everything from poor enemy AI to boring level design, awful graphics, and shoddy voice acting.
I'm impressed. She's real sweet.
Nothing about this game earned praise from reviewers, and, well, we cannot disagree. A buddy cop movie has great potential for an action game, but none of that potential was put to any good use in Bad Boys Miami Takedown. Not only does the film's action not carry over into the experience, its comedy fails to as well. Don't be fooled by how much we laughed in that episode of Worst Games Ever. We were very much laughing at the game, not with it.
What the f*** is going
Why
on?
did it take so long?
Number 4. Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, 1992. To keep this list from becoming solely a worst games ever highlight reel, let's take a look at the sequel to the much derided Home Alone 1 game, which thankfully was also a pile of plops. See the relevant episode. Oh, it looks like me!
It is you!
Based on the film of the same name, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York is a side-scrolling adventure that pits Kevin McAllister against the mean streets of New York City and enemies such as vacuum cleaners and floating mops, you know, like in the real New York. If you can believe it, Home Alone 2 is somehow worse than its predecessor. Its clunky controls and laughably bad graphics are genuinely astounding, considering the game was made towards the end of the NES's life cycle rather than the start. The plot also had very little to do with the beloved comedy sequel, which begs the question, why make it a Home Alone game in the first place? Oh yeah, that's right, money. That was literally the reason. Home Alone 2 failed to live up to the high standards of its film inspiration, and also the low standards of the previous game. To be fair though, you won't encounter any former American presidents throughout the runtime, so in that respect, it's a triumph. Nay, better than the movie. Number 3. Napoleon Dynamite – The Game, 2007. A question for those of you who've seen 2004's cult classic Napoleon Dynamite. After seeing said film, how many of you thought, that would be a hard movie to make a game out of? If you raised your hand, then congratulations! You have more common sense than an entire team of developers. Napoleon Dynamite the game released on PSP and Nintendo DS in 2007, and it was the dirt worst. A collection of minigames that are as boring as they are generic, the game fails to capture any of the film's unique comedy spirit, and the script reads like the person who wrote it hadn't even heard of the movie, let alone seen it. Something like Napoleon Dynamite is way too left field to try to make into a cohesive gaming experience. Trying to retell the film's plot in game form would have been damn near impossible. In fact, it was damn near impossible, so we had to settle for this tepid affair instead. A desperate attempt to cash in on a popular license, Napoleon Dynamite the game should not get your vote. But I do know someone who should. Number 2. The Muppets Movie Adventures, 2014. I believe that in the Holy Bible it says, on the 7th day God rested, then he got bored, so on the 8th day he made the Muppets. Kermit and his friends have been entertaining us for so long they could conceivably have been around since the dawn of creation. So you'd think by 2014, someone might have known how to make a decent game about them. The Muppets Movie Adventures for the PlayStation Vita transports some of your favourite Muppets into classic movie settings and sees them play through a series of 2D levels based on various film genres, such as space opera, western, and fantasy epic. On paper, this seems like a really fun idea, and the stories have that signature Muppets wackiness about them. In reality though, the game came under fire for its short length, simple gameplay, and poor use of touch controls. The end result was a game that failed to capture the imagination, which is strange as with a wide variety of unique and recognisable characters, you'd think the Muppets would have been able to slot perfectly into a concept like this. Oh well, at least it's better than Michael Caine singing in The Muppets Christmas Carol, am I right?
The glory that you see.
And number 1, The Simpsons Wrestling, 2001. When it comes to missed open goals in gaming, fewer are more open or missed than The Simpsons Wrestling. Released at the height of pro wrestling's popularity and when The Simpsons was still going strong, this game had the potential to be great. Instead, well, what is there to say about one of the clunkiest, messiest games ever made? The title is nearly completely impossible to control, needlessly complicated, and severely lacking in, well, The Simpsons, generally. By that, of course, I mean it doesn't nearly have the same level of genuine Simpsoniness as titles like Hit and Run and Road Rage do, which might be its biggest problem overall. I wish I could say The Simpsons Wrestling is the only bad video game to come out of Springfield, but sadly, our favourite family has been cursed with a number of releases that are far from cromulent. Simpsons Skateboarding, Bart and the Beanstalk, the Itchy and Scratchy game, all of these atrocities and more haunt the Simpsons like Hugo in the attic. When it comes to the Simpsons games, there is often more bad than good, I'm afraid, kind of like the show itself today. Well, That's a depressing note to end on, isn't it? I thought this list was supposed to be funny. All I did was make myself sad.
What the hell was that?
Oh, I know. I'll go and play a comedy adaptation video game. I'm sure that will cheer me right up. Bye, everybody.